I'm doing pretty well. I mean, I love coming on and listening, but I also hate coming on because it means we're usually talking about this. But it's what we have to do.
Well, we appreciate it, and you've been great with us and our audience throughout the course of this, Doc. So there's a lot to get into it with you, right? The breakthrough positives that we've seen, right? And we've seen on occasion here, and not just in sports, but throughout the course of the country as well. For those that are like, well, I'm getting a vaccine, I should not be able to contract COVID. Explain, the vaccination and the breakthrough positives that we've seen here.
Sure. First of all, the vaccines, they're anywhere from 70 to 90% effective, which is actually very good as vaccines go, much better than what we had in the past. That being said, when you get the vaccine, what it really does is it protects you from getting very sick and dying, or if you're a younger person, it can protect you from the long-term lingering effects, the cough that doesn't go away for 6 months or 4 years, the cloudiness, all those things. It protects, so it makes it more of a typical virus. So the vaccine protects in that regard, but we're kind of living in two countries. I'll give you an example. If you're in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, you're in that 70% vaccine rate, which is really good. But if you step into Missouri, it's 39.6%. And with 39.6%, they actually have hospitals that are begging for ventilators again. They are actually in a situation where the hospitals are full and people are in the ICU. And this is, March of 2020 all over again because it hasn't changed. So when you have part of the country vaccinated highly where they should be, and part not even near what we call herd immunity, the virus lingers and it stays out there. So you're vaccinated, and if everybody else was vaccinated at a 70% rate, it'd be highly unlikely to come across it. The virus wouldn't have a place to go, but it does now.
All right, Doc. Okay, so if I've gotten any of the three vaccines, right? Pfizer, Moderna, J&J, right? And we know the percentages are different, one shot as compared to the two shots with Moderna and Pfizer. If I come down with COVID-19, can I spread it?
Yes.
You can.
You can spread it because it's like any other virus. If you got the cold, you can spread it. I mean, we have some mild viruses we get all the time in the winter. We spread them from person to person. They're just not that serious. Again, the people you worry about, I keep trying to nicely say it, the only people you're really worrying about are those who haven't been vaccinated. In other words, the reason the Yankees aren't playing games isn't because the team's vaccinated. They're fine. They could spread it around. They're thinking about who are they going to come in contact with who hasn't been vaccinated. So there's a whole ethical dilemma of at what point do you just live life, and people made their choices, and at what point do you not? And obviously, that's a really tough, bigger decision, much bigger than me, but that's really what they're doing. They're protecting those who have not been vaccinated and not necessarily protecting those who have been vaccinated.
Dr. McDonough, is this the Delta variant? Or when you're talking about places that haven't been vaccinated yet, or what we're dealing with now, I was just reading in the New York Times this morning about there have been cases that have been rising, not even close to where we've been through two peaks of this virus, but health officials are kind of surprised because it's July. And they weren't expecting this until maybe September when the weather gets colder, when we'll go back to school and work and stuff at full time. Is this the Delta variant? Is this what we're watching here?
It could be, and it may not be. Here's the deal. The Delta variant is just, viruses learn. They know their only job is to spread from people to people, person to person. So what COVID did was a more rapid spreading form of it started to take over. And when it takes over, it hits more people because it moves faster. It isn't more aggressive. In other words, if you're vaccinated and you get the Delta variant, it's no big deal. But if you're not, it's just as bad as the original one, not worse. But because it spreads faster, it's moving faster. So we worry about the Delta variant, especially for the people who aren't vaccinated. But what you worry about is what's the next move on the virus? In other words, we have a period of time here where we can basically step on the virus's neck and crush it. And we're not. We're just kind of sitting around letting it brew. And the worry is, what if it becomes something resistant to the vaccines we have, and then we're all flipping back to April of 2020 again as a country, and the world, and that's the concern.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question about the efficacy of the virus. We've heard things about booster shots, but so far anyone who's gotten vaccinated, no one's told you need to get a booster. Do we know exactly how long the vaccine is good for?
No, we're living it real time. We know it's as good as, for instance, I was first vaccinated, because I was in the ICU and stuff. I got vaccinated in December. I mean, I was treating people in the ICU, not in the ICU, but I was in December. So I'm coming up on, a year next December. That group I anticipate is going to get a booster. At a certain point, they're going to start to question if it's waning. And that's what they're watching. I do personally, I'm not speaking for the FDA, but I fully expect there will be boosters for a while. And especially now, because we're not getting the vaccination rates as high as we'd like, we probably will need them.
Yeah, Doc, did baseball, did baseball have a choice last night?
No, I don't think they did. I don't think they want to be on the side of, knowing there are people who are positive and theoretically putting other people at risk. I mean, that's a bigger decision. So, no, I don't think they had a choice. I think you look at a team like the Phillies, who aren't fully vaccinated, that's another whole issue because they, unfortunately, their players will be out much longer because they could get sick. And there's still a theory among pro athletes, and I'm sure you know it better than me, but many of them think that if they had the vaccine, there was some injury they got, in their hamstring or whatever that was caused by the vaccine. And it's more people put time associations with it. But we don't. I mean, Didi Gregorius thought he got pseudo gout as a result of the vaccine. Well, that's not a side effect. It's not what happens. He just got pseudo gout when he did, and he linked it. So people make these decisions. I think we need to continue to educate and, reach out. And I think the way to do it is not in a hostile way. Just say, hey, here are the facts. Please think about it, and keep going at it from that approach.
Doc, based on your experience, your expertise dealing with this, right, and seeing how, these leagues have handled it, would you be surprised if there's a game tonight between the Yankees and Sox?
Yeah, I would. I think they're going to – I mean, I can't make the decision for them, but I think I'd be concerned. And you also worry now you had the All-Star game. A lot of people travel. I really worry about the Olympics because people are going into a different country from all over the world. There's, not everybody is as vaccinated as we are. So I think we're going to start seeing these things, more and more. But the thing I want to stress to people, especially if you're a fan or you work in one of these leagues, if you're vaccinated, that fear of being in the ICU goes away. And I think that's the important thing you have to realize.
Absolutely. And Dr. Brian McDonough is our guest. Just a couple more for you, Dr. McDonough. And again, we always appreciate your time and expertise. Saw that LA County is now going to reinstate their mask mandate. New York right now, not seeing that. What would it take, do you think, for New York? Do you think there's any risk for New York City in having to put the mask mandate back in place?
I think when they start seeing a growing number of cases, they may do it. And again, remember, now you're wearing the mask. Obviously, you don't want to get it yourself, even to get a cold, but you're wearing the mask to protect those who aren't vaccinated. So you may have some difficulty with people wanting to wear the mask because they're going to say, wait a minute, I did my job. And that's where we kind of have to kind of look at it like we're all kind of a social contract together. We're all part of the human family and we got to worry about each other. And I think hopefully people will wear masks, and at the same time, people will consider the vaccine.
Doc, herd immunity. We get to 70% as a nation, right? Say we get there. Are we then at technically, quote unquote, herd immunity?
Yeah, I think they've said 70 to 80% when I read all the studies. We're there because the virus starts running out of places to go.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. If it doesn't have a host, it just kind of dies on the vine. When it finds a host and it gets in there, it stays in there, especially if somebody gets really sick, because then it mutates inside one person and it can change. And that's where we have the worries.
Okay. And the follow-up on that is this, would be the communication here, right? Whether the subjects become way too political, and everyone's got a personal choice, right? I don't, whether you get the vaccine, don't get everyone's got a personal choice, right? And we all understand that, right? But, how do you bridge the gap here between, real and not real? Those that are uncomfortable, the fact that they point out, well, it's not FDA approved, all of these things. How do you bridge the gap here, working in the medical community to get the right information out to people who are unvaccinated?
Well, one of the things I've done this podcast and the videos forever, and they're kind of a diary in time, hoping you get a chance to reach a lot more people, which is great. But on the individual level, what I've learned is, if I'm talking to somebody about smoking or drinking or any of those things, you try to explain logically to people so they understand. Don't aggressively attack them, but let's say, hey, this is why, and get them to think about it and get on board. That's how we have to do it. Unfortunately, as you say, without getting political, there's been so many mixed messages, and almost to the point of it's taken a medical issue and somehow morphed into a political issue, and it hurts to see that, because I know what happens to people. I've seen too much of it, and it's a source of frustration. But you can't really wallow in it. You just have to keep trying to help people come to that decision. And I've found if you do it nicely, respectfully, you get a lot further than if you become aggressive.
Absolutely. My last one for you, doctor, is about so allegedly, well, we have reports. One of the, according to ESPN, one of the Yankees who tested positive was Aaron Judge. Now, these are rapid tests that are coming back, and so we're going to wait to get it confirmed. But he was just coming from the All-Star game. How concerned should Major League Baseball be that you literally just had one player from every single team in one place, and now they're all going back to their respective teams all around the country?
Well, they can be concerned, but they can be equally concerned that when they're walking through the concourse or going to the mall or going anywhere, they're also exposed to, depending on what state you're in, anywhere from 30 to 70% of people who aren't vaccinated who could be carrying it. So,
okay.
Remember, they're testing. For all I know right now, I could be carrying the virus, but I'm not being tested because I don't feel sick and I don't want to. Because of the protocols in there, they're being tested more. So I think what you're getting is a subset of society. I wouldn't be surprised if, in a group of 100 people who have been vaccinated, you might have 8 or 10 who at certain points are carrying the virus. Again, because we haven't achieved that level of immunity we want as a country.
Doc, if I'm vaccinated, I contract COVID-19. You mentioned I could spread it. How long is the window that I can spread the virus?
What we believe is it's far less, because remember, your system fights it,
right.
It attacks it, and it kicks it out and crushes it. So whereas if you're vulnerable, it gets to nest in your body and start to populate and explode. If you've been vaccinated, you get that layer. So your chances of spreading it for any significant time are far less. And it's more like, in many ways, coronavirus is a lot like it's a form of our common cold. It's like it becomes less aggressive because of the vaccine.
The other question I have for you is that, the rates that you've seen across the country, you mentioned in Missouri at 39%, right? We know Maggie mentioned about, the announcement out in Los Angeles that they're going to go back to indoor masks starting Saturday at midnight. Are you surprised that it's hitting once again in July? Because we've heard warnings from the CDC come fall, September, October. Are you surprised that it's hitting this early?
Yes, but when I see the numbers in some of the states, particularly, in the South, and we've seen it, Wyoming, there's pockets where they just have not had success in vaccinating enough people. So again, people travel in and out of these areas, and that's when they kind of bring it back. So no, I'm not surprised. I do worry. Again, I don't worry as much about the Delta strain. I worry more about what's the next strain that it could be. And I know they're testing and looking, but, we also have to look at the world and try to get the world vaccinated as quickly as we can as well, and continue those efforts.
Absolutely. Dr. McDonough, we can't thank you enough.
Fantastic, Doc. Thank you.
You always are here to answer all of our questions. Of course, you can check out his channel on YouTube, A Doctor in the Pandemic. It's an endless wealth of and resource for anyone who has questions. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you. Well, I hope. When I say talk to you again soon, I hope it's under better circumstances.
Hopefully we're talking sports, Doc.
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah, eventually we got to get like a Big East tournament or something and start talking.
That's it.